welcome back to Joyfully Cooking. I'm so glad to be back today. We have a lot of new recipes that we want to get into and also a new look as well. So stay tuned for today's menu. Today's recipe is gluten steak. For those who do not eat gluten, there is different ways how you can make a different type of vegetarian steak, but today we'll be using gluten. It's two parts to this recipe. You have a broth for the gluten steak and then the actual steak. So the ingredients you'll need for the broth is red bell peppers, cups of onions, and a half a cup of celery, 1/4 cup of yeast flakes, a half a tablespoon of garlic powder, a half a tablespoon of celery salt, half a tablespoon of basil, half a tablespoon of oregano, a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of chicken style seasoning or beef style seasoning, a half a tablespoon of thyme leaves, and a teaspoon of salt. Add a 1/4 cup of amino acids or soy sauce and turn your oven on to low and then let it simmer. Our pot is simmering and that's a good thing, and we're going to add 1 tablespoon of browning right into the pot. And now you're going to add your 12 cups of water right in. I like to put the water right where I put the browning in so you get the rest of the browning out of the tablespoon. You know that was about a tablespoon. Now you're going to get your measuring cup and go and start adding your 12 cups of water right into the pot with all the other ingredients. So just continue giving it a gentle stir, stirring around all those good seasonings and those vegetables. A gentle toss as you stir it. And then just cover it. And now we're going to get to making our actual gluten steak. So now this is part 2. We're going to be making the actual gluten steak now. So the ingredients you'll need is, of course, gluten. And we use the Hodgson Mill brand, and then also whole wheat flour, rolled oats, walnuts, and nutritional yeast. So first what you want to do, you want to have a bowl and put in a cup of the gluten flour with a half a cup of whole wheat flour and a 1/4 cup of yeast flakes. Now in your blender you want to add a 1/4 cup of rolled oats and blend smoothly. And when that's done blending, add it inside with the gluten flour, the yeast flakes, and your whole wheat flour. Next, you want to add a 1 cup of walnuts in your blender and pulse until nicely blended. And add that also inside the bowl. So after you put the dry ingredients aside, you're going to take 2 cups of the broth now, because we're going to be adding that with the dry ingredients to make the gluten steak. So just take 2 cups of the broth. That smells good. Looks good too. You want to have an open type of bowl so it can cool off. And then we're going to add this and the dry ingredients. You don't have to cover it. You want all the air to come in so it can cool off quicker. Shouldn't take that long. Cover back the top so that can stay warm. And then after it cools off, we'll add it in with the dry ingredients. Now I want to take up the time to talk about some of the health benefits that is in the food and the vegetables that we're going to be eating today in gluten steak. So first of all, we have a lot of nuts and vegetables in this menu. We have walnuts, which is good for the heart. It fights heart attacks and heart disease. And then we also have celery. Celery is full of fiber, helps you lose weight, and it also has a lot of vitamin A and a lot of vitamin C. So does peppers, have a lot of vitamin A, C, and F. And then we have all those juicy spices in there. We have oregano, we have thyme, and all of these things were in our first diet that God gave us. Fruits, grains, and nuts. We have our grains in here and our vegetables that God gave us. And it's very important to know what you're eating, because many people just eat, but they don't know what they're eating or the good health benefits that they're getting from them. Like we talked before about nutrients, it's important to know what's going inside your body and how it affects your body. But this one is called gluten steak, and it's very healthy, full of nutritional meals. So I really hope you enjoy this recipe. As me and my family, this was one of the first meals that we ate as we became vegan or started eating a plant-based diet. We started eating gluten steak. It's a very good alternative for those who like steak, who really like red meats, and so on. So now we're going to go right back to the show. Okay, welcome back to Joyful Cooking. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add our 2 cups of broth. It's nice and cooled off now. And we're going to add that in with our dry ingredients. And now you just want to stir that a little bit, okay? You mainly want to knead this part. So you just stir it around a little bit. And if you do need to add a little bit more of the broth, go right ahead and add some. But don't add a whole nother cup. Maybe add a fourth or something. But you want the texture to be like this, okay? Almost like bread. You don't really want to see any more of the flour. You want it to be becoming more brown, okay? And by that time, you can stop stirring it. And now just like fold it over, kind of like bread when you make bread. But remember, you don't want to do it so much, because the more you knead it, the more harder the gluten steak becomes. So you don't want to knead it for so long, okay? So just a little bit kneading, not so hard of kneading, gentle kneading. And after that, you want to have your flat cookie sheet or a certain pan like this. So you take part of it, just easily go like that and shape it right there. You don't have to oil it, okay? Because they don't really stick. So you don't have to oil your pan. And then you just take some. You can have them small, or if you really want them like a steak, you can have them big. Okay, and we like to do some small ones and some big ones. And you want to make sure your hands is clean for this. So you wash your hands before you cook and while you're cooking. So just have a nice form. It doesn't have to be so pretty. And they can be as close as you want. They won't stick together. And that's all you do. Really simple. And while you do this, make sure you preheat your oven to 350 or 400. So this came out to be 2 batches. We have a small one here with 4. And then we have 8 here, 2, 4, 6, 8, okay? And they're really filling too. So you're like, oh, that's a small amount. But they're really filling as well. So now what we do to have the flavor soak in, take anything. I used this to cool off the broth before. So I'm just going to use this. Be careful, it's hot. And you want to pour it over the steak. Get all that flavor in there, and you let it soak. Like you want it to marinate. You just soak it over, and you want it to cover the steak that full. And you let that bake for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. So we're just going to test how the gluten's coming out. You want it to be nice and soft, but also kind of firm, so it has that steak-like feeling. Now we're testing this one. But yes, this is very good. Has that nice good texture. You want it to be able to go in and come out and have that nice firmness still too. You see the smoke? Nice and hot. So we're going to let that cool, and then we'll plate it. So this is our delicious gluten steak. We paired this with brown rice, and an easy way how you can do this, the way that we did it, we took 2 cups of the broth and the rest of the cups to make the rice, and now we have all those good flavors that's in the meat that's now also in the rice. So that's a very delicious way to do that. And then we also have a few green beans on the side, and overall this is a very delicious and healthy meal. So I hope you enjoy this, and stay tuned for Joyfully Cooking.